What's up, Kingdom family? It is your boy, the greatest Kingdom YouTuber under the heavens, your featurette general Meek, and back at it with another Kingdom video. Today, we have the most glorious Kingdom Q&A of all time. You guys asked, and I will answer. So, let's not waste any time and get straight into it. This guy asked, I think Kyoukai's morale boosting moment on the off-screen second day of the Han conquest was lackluster, due to how Hara had the narrator hype it up as one of the best in recent years, then barely went into detail of why it was special, besides her unit being simps for her. Also, her general kill was a nobody that died in the same chapter he was introduced. Thoughts? I thoroughly disagree. When Oki had a morale boosting moment with little to no words, everybody glazed him. When Rempa had a morale boosting moment with little to no words, everybody glazed him. Kyoukai deserves the same level of love, if not more. It is not uncommon to expect Oki and Rempa, great generals of the heavens, to do this. Now, when it comes to Kyoukai, the more reserved general, similar to Moten, when she does something deliberately, since it's rare, it signals to her troops that the moment is upon us. Or in other words, if there's ever a time to give our everything, it's now. Moten's troops know that when he asks for something, it is when he really needs it. Similarly, Kyoukai draping her unit's flag over her shoulders like a cape and raising her sword in the air in the most flashy way, ensuring the sunlight bounces off it, naturally makes her soldiers feel as though they're gazing upon the hero of the battlefield. Her morale boosting moment is too deliberate to not end up being insanely explosive. It's a classic example of show don't tell. She's using her unit simping to her advantage. If it was people losing their minds over Oki and Rempa, no one would complain about it. Kyoukai even gives a clue when she says that Nanshin's armor for her, acting as a symbol, would be useful at times like this, hence using the flag as a heroic symbol. As for her general kill, it's not the greatest in the world, but let's not brush aside the fact that General Hidon isn't complete fodder. First of all, Hakuokoku trusted him enough to give him the important role of completing the three-pronged attack on Shin. This is the showing part. The telling part is him, to our knowledge, being one of, if not Han's most skilled general at defense. The first time, the only reason the three-pronged attack didn't work is because Kyoukai stalled him. Also, Hidon was too good at protecting himself. The second time around, Kyoukai didn't have to worry about protecting Shin, so using him as bait and her morale boosting moment, she swiftly dismantled this killer defense. He's not a nobody and was not introduced in the same chapter. Kyoukai being an offensive juggernaut shouldn't take away from her feats, stalling and then slaying. This guy asked, will Karyo sweat and Sweat Bunkun ever stop sweating? No. This guy asked, what do you think has been Shin's best tactical moments, and do you think there has been anything that hints at his possible potential at the strategic level, and if so, what are they? The most obvious answer is that Shin's best tactical moments are whenever he uses his instinct directly to heavily impact the battlefield. Whether it was saving Jukyo's Ri and commanding 10,000 soldiers far exceeding his rank, matching Rinshoujo's sword, a great heaven subordinate in tactics, or being responsible for jump-starting the strategy to break out of Riboku's cage. If we were to look at the conquest of Han specifically, Shin actually performed well in terms of executing the strategy that Toe set out. Granted, the strategy was simple, but still. Just like how there's scriptwriters and actors that excel at executing the script, Shin may not always write the script, but he more often than not executes it perfectly. The strategy was for everyone to embark on a lightning-fast offense to prevent Han from gaining any momentum. The tactic set out by Karyo Ten was for Shin to push in as deep as possible to draw out Hakuokoku, and then hit him with a pincer attack. It worked well until Hakuokoku hit them with a mirror tactic. As we all know, when there is a mirror tactic, it comes down to whoever wins the direct assault. Simple as that. In Hango, Ousen and Riboku mirrored each other, just like in Western Shao, but in the direct assault, Shibisho was able to destroy Ako and Denribi. Here in Han, Hakuokoku mirrors Ten, and Shin was able to win out in the direct assault when it was all said and done. So these are already hints at Shin's potential in terms of strategically, as in, I doubt he is ever going to put on a deliberate strategic masterclass, but neither did Jukyo. Jukyo excelled in the tactical aspect, because that's the nature of an instinctual general, to constantly read and react on the battlefield, probing different spots, using himself to gain momentum in those spots. And this can't be taught. It is something that requires experience and facing different types of opponents consistently to get good at. I'm more than happy to be proven wrong, but Shin's greatest moments are mostly going to be making those tactical adjustments after the battle is already underway. And these moments won't always be flashy or pointed out, so a lot of people won't like this. This guy asked, what do you think will be the Shin unit's next major upgrade in the next arc? Siege Towers? ? The only thing that I can think of is discovering that one of the newly acquired special soldiers from the family register is actually really capable. as in has the potential to become one of the Shin Unit generals in the future. Since this was their first real war, I doubt any of them were able to perform to their maximum potential. At the same time, since they now have real war experience for the first time, they will be able to showcase their real abilities in the next war without fear. Even the new recruits in To's army already improved dramatically on the second day. Imagine the morale and level the new recruits are at after conquering an entire state. On top of that, the Xiao campaign is sure to be a more strenuous war than the Conquest of Han. This means that their abilities will be more needed than ever. In terms of siege towers, they would be really cool, and I thought that Hansen, the tower guy from Kunki's army, would have joined, but they will probably help out this time around, along with the Marian mercenaries too, since Zhao is a tougher enemy than Han. There is absolutely no universe where Zhao willingly surrenders, which means a siege battle is inevitable. Also, Riboku is not getting psychologically outsmarted this bad. This guy asked, which generals do you think will join Shin after this arc? How many generals and total armies do you think Shin will have in his prime? Do you think he will surpass Oki, Renpa, and Riboku? I don't think any generals will join Shin after this arc, but if I had to say, I'd lean more towards Heki joining than Yoko. During the Three Pillars arc, Karyo Ten brought up a good point about having homegrown generals, with the concern that the unit wouldn't want people they can't trust to command them. Having Heki join, even though he isn't a homegrown general, remedies that issue, since he is more than trustworthy. I'd like to think that in his prime, similar to Oki, Shin will end up having 5 generals. He already has Kyoukai as To, and Ten as his Ryukoku. And also, it will always be my dream and prediction that there will be a battle where Shin commands the central army, with Kyoukai and Ten commanding either wing. It is obvious that Shin will surpass Oki, Renpa, and Riboku, both in terms of feats and symbolically, by being the greatest general in Shin's history through unifying all of China as the future Emperor Eisei's most trusted sword. Even if people think that Shin at the end doesn't have the proper feats, the fact stands that he unified China as Sei's #1 general. This guy asked, do you think Ousen versus Riboku Part 3 will happen, or will Hara try to add variety by using Mobu, who hasn't shown up in a while? Ousen versus Riboku is definitely going to happen, even if it's Part 3. Fans will not stand for it if Hara makes Ousen a bum forever. Also, when Ousen claims something, he usually pulls through. Whether it's never fighting a battle he's not confident in winning, or after Hango, where he said that 10 times out of 10, he could beat Riboku if he wanted to. Now that he knows about Shueisha, it is no time to mess around and get his new army decimated too. The reason why Mobu hasn't shown up is because he is likely being saved for the Chu campaign. We know that Chu will be our most difficult opponent, and it is only natural that Chin's strongest general remains south to stave away any threat, whether it be as a psychological tactic that Chin's strongest is defending, or the fact that only the man that defeated Kanmei could drive away Chu's monster military, whoever they may send. This guy asked, what do you think will be the overall strategy for the final conquest of Zhao? Where will they invade from? Who will be involved? What will be their roles? And any special movements? I've never thought that Ousen was wrong for trying to twice now invade Jian and Hango to put a lid onto Zhao. The priority should always be to prevent the royalty from escaping and rebuilding, and saying that the strategy for conquering Zhao will once again take place in northern Zhao. The difference would be now that Han is our territory, not only do we have more personnel to work with, but we need to build more southern pressure. So I'd like to say, instead of attacking northern Zhao alone, we should try to apply some pressure on Riboku's Great Wall. Not to say we're actually attacking it, but more so using someone as durable as Yoko perhaps, and the troops from Han could serve well in a situation where it will likely end in a less than favorable amount of casualties. While this is happening, Ousen, Yotama, and the young trio will ride north. In Jian, we only had Shin and Moten. In Hango, we only had Shin and Ohan. Hara is doing this on purpose. When we finally conquer Zhao this time around, it will be because the future greatest generals in Qin history, all 3 of Shin, Ohan, and Moten, are there. I wouldn't even be mad if it was only Ousen and the young trio. After all, these 3 are already officially one step below Great General. Together, they make one of the 6 Great Generals of Qin. So this 4-army split will be the special movement, 3 up north and 1 down south. It could be Yotama instead of Yoko attacking the wall, since the mountain soldiers are not only the strongest, but the most unique army that Qin has. This guy asked, I think Ousen has a spy in Zhao and knows that some of the officials have animosity towards Riboku, which I would see as Riboku's weakness. Do you agree and also believe that Ousen will take advantage of that? I actually like this take. Ousen having a spy in Zhao makes sense. That guy just looks like he knows knows it all, he's also a know-it-all. That would be the more logical answer, that Ousen knows the officials hate Riboku, and so he might use that to his advantage, like in Western Zhao, where Ousen knew that the royal army wouldn't help since the king did not like Riboku. In terms of that being the weakness that Ousen was talking about after Hango, I don't know. I'm leaning more towards Ousen knowing that Kain is Riboku's kryptonite. But again, it would make sense for Zhao's royal court to be Riboku's weakness only if the king still hated him. But he doesn't. Instead, he knows Riboku's value and importance. So I'm staying on the Kain train, and her being his weakness. But I like the spy take. This guy asked, how can Hara solve the problem of Shin's development and plug the Shin Unit's problems, Karyo Ten being useless, Shin's instinct not working when it's convenient? How will Hara make Shin evolve to become as mighty as the great Jukyo? Is it through fighting Shueisha? I'm going to assume that this is 0 out of 10 rage bait. If not, I will humor you. First of all, Ten is not useless if we aren't memeing her. She takes care of all the logistics that people don't care for, and Hara wouldn't put on the page in terms of entertainment. Her tactics are also often overlooked since Shin is the one actually executing them, and also building on them and fleshing them out on the fly to advance forward. Shin's instinct isn't something that activates like a Super Saiyan form. That's why it is called instinct. It is only when the situation calls for it will it appear. That's not to say it is a miracle waiting to happen when Shin is pushed to the brink. For example, there was no need for him to do some magnificent maneuver when he was already in the favorable position of slaying Hakuokoku in a duel. The point of using tactics or strategy is to put ourselves in a favorable position to win. If Shin could already do that using a simple method, why would he make it complicated for no reason? It ended up in him slaying Hakuokoku anyway, and essentially conquering Han by drastically dampening their firepower. At the end of the day, I understand seeing instinctual feats is really cool, but a win's a win, and we won. Shin fighting Shueisha is possible, but that's not necessarily the evolution. I wouldn't say that Shin is far off from being as mighty as Jukyo. We need to remember that Jukyo was in his late 50s during all of his prime endeavors. Even if his prime was before where we saw him in the story, he'd still be in his mid to late 40s. If anything, we should be impressed that Shin is already this good, and he'll only keep getting better. The only thing that's missing is an opportunity for Shin to be the main guy, commander-in-chief, and I have a feeling that's not going to be too far away. If you made it to the end, thank you for tuning in. It would mean a lot to me if you guys left a like and a comment, share this video with a friend, and subscribe for more videos like this.